Okay. So today we're doing lesson 2.7 and we're talking about slope-intercept form. This is not the first time we've seen this. Tessa, I didn't know that you needed one. When I walked around and said, does anyone else need a packet? You did not raise your hand. They're up front, Tessa. You even asked 3 or 4 times, like, does anyone else need one? Because I still had extras. Okay. So we've worked with slope-intercept form. This isn't the first time you've seen it. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Someone tell me what m stands for. Slope. M represents the slope. In terms of a word problem, often slope is written with the word per. I'm just going to put a little star there. Often in a word problem, you know what the slope is because it has the word per. What does the b stand for? The y-intercept. And often in a word problem, that is written as the beginning, the initial, or sometimes it's called a flat fee. So I just want you to know, because we're going to work with word problems, so I want you to know when you look at a word problem, what word represents slope, what word represents y-intercept. So today we're just working on writing equations based off of slope, y-intercept, graphs, do a couple of word problems, I believe. So example number 1, we have a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of 5. I need to write an equation for that. What's that going to look like? My slope is 2. That takes care of the m in my equation. And my y-intercept is 5. That takes care of my b. So what's that equation going to look like? I heard a lot of y equals, I think 2x plus 5 is what I got from most of you, right? Awesome. Okay. In the next example, my slope is 6. That's my m. And my y-intercept is 1/4. That's my b. What's that going to look like? Y equals 6x plus 1/4. Good job. I'll tell you, most often when I put a question like that on a quiz, you guys want to write it the other way because you're really accustomed to having slope be a fraction and the y-intercept being a whole number. Don't let that confuse you, okay? The way that we wrote that is correct. What about the last one? My slope is 0, and my y-intercept is -3. Y equals -3. So I'm going to write it out, y equals 0 times x minus 3, and I'm going to have Evan explain how he came to the y equals -3. Evan. Okay, so what is 0 times x? Nothing, it's 0, right? So that's where we get the y equals -3. Good job, sir. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's write an equation from the graph. So you should always begin with your b. That's where you want to begin. So what is the value of b? What's my y-intercept? 2. B equals 2. What is my slope? Is it -1/2? Down 2 over 1. What is my slope? Yeah, it's -2. Remember, your slope is your rise, your up or your down, over your run, and we always run to the right. So the equation for this is y equals -2. 2x plus 2. All right, let's look at the next one. Crossing the y-axis right here. That doesn't show up very well. I'm crossing the y-axis, and I'm going to draw a triangle for my slope so you can see that. Possibly. So what's my slope and what's my y-intercept? Slope is 4. We go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Yes. M is 4 over 1. And I'm just going to write it as 4 when I put it in my equation. What is my y-intercept? -3. So the equation is y equals 4x minus 3. Yeah, don't forget your x, okay? That's important. All right, looks like I cross at the origin, and here it looks like I cross at 1. When I think about my slope, I'm going to go up and over. So what is my slope and what is my y-intercept? Lorelei, what is my y-intercept? 0. Yeah, absolutely. Good job. Naomi, earbuds out, please, and thank you. What is my slope? How much do I go up? I go up 2. How much do I run to the right? So 2 over 4 is the same thing as what? 1/2. So my equation is what? Y equals miles.
Y equals 1/2 would be plus 0, or they just need 0?
I'm missing something on my slope. What comes after the coefficient? Yeah, 1/2 x. And I don't want you to write plus 0. I want you to leave it just like that. Y equals 1/2 x. All right, my y-intercept in this example is 1. This is much like the equation that Evan talked us through up top. Do I have a slope? Nope, my slope is 0. So if I were to write it, y equals 0x plus 1. Are we allowed to leave an equation with a 0 in front of the x? No. So what's this going to be? Y equals 1. Good job. Do you guys feel okay with that? All right. Now we're going to write an equation using a table. So I'm going to tell you 2 things. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that we're going to have to count the change in y over the change in x from our table to find our slope. Okay. The second thing I'm going to tell you is that the y-intercept happens when, like when I look at this point right here, what's the value of x when I cross the y-axis? When I cross the y-axis here, what's the value of x? Or when I cross the y-axis here, what's the value of x? 0, yeah. So the y-intercept happens when x equals 0. So the y-intercept is always the ordered pair 0, some y number, okay? So we're looking, when we are trying to find the y-intercept in a table, we're trying to find the input of 0. We want to have an input or an x value of 0. So for this first equation, I can see that I have a y-intercept of what? B is 10, yeah. But I have to count my slope. What am I doing each time on the y-axis? I'm adding 5. And what am I doing each time on my x-axis? I'm adding 2. So remember that my slope is my change in y over my change in x. So I have the two pieces that I need. I know what my y-intercept is, and I know what my slope is. So the equation for this is what? Yeah, good job. Y equals 5 over 2x plus 10. All right, let's do it again. Do I know what the y-intercept is of this equation? Yeah, I do. It's right here. So B is 8. Remember, the y-intercept happens when x equals 0. If you can remember that, you're golden. Let's talk about my slope. What am I doing on the y? I'm subtracting 2. And what am I doing on the x? I'm adding 3. So my slope is my change in y, -2, over my change in x, 3. So what is the equation for this second table? Yeah, y equals -2/3 or 2 over 3x plus 8. Awesome job. Let's look at this one. I don't see a 0 in my x's, but I could probably calculate slope. Let's calculate slope and do something fancy with our table. So what is my change in the y? Plus 3. And what is my change in the x? Plus 1. So let's move backwards. If instead of going up 1 each time on the x, what if I were to go backwards 1? What would that give me as an input value? 1. And what would that give me as an output value? So I have to go backwards 3. It would give me 1. Let's do it again. Let's go backwards 1. What would that give me as an input value on my x? A 0, which is what I want. So now let's go backwards. What is 1 minus 3? -2. So we used the table and our slope to find our y-intercept. Do you guys see that? So our y-intercept is -2, and we know that our slope is 3 over 1. Does that make sense how we worked backwards using slope? Okay, so my equation is going to be what? Awesome, y equals 3x minus 2. How do we feel about that? Good, okay. So now we're just gonna look at an equation and we're gonna find the y-intercept and the slope of the equation. But here's the important thing about that. We have to make sure that our equation is written in this form. If it's not written in y equals mx plus b, then it's going to be hard to do that, okay? So for our first example, can we identify the slope and the y-intercept? Yes, what is my slope? 3, because that's the number attached to my x. And what is my y-intercept? 7. Notice that every time we write down the slope, do we ever put the x with it? No, x is a coordinate for the ordered pairs. X is not part of your slope. Let's look at example number 9. What do I need to do to that equation first? Yeah, I have to solve for y. I have to get rid of that 2. So how am I going to do that, Tessa? Divide every stinking term by 2. So that gives me y equals 5 halves x minus 4. So now I can identify my slope and my y-intercept. Looks like my slope is 5 over 2, or 5 halves, and my y-intercept is -4. Good job on the negative. Okay, let's look at example number 10. What are we thinking? Subtract 3x. Keep going with it, Macy. You're right. That gives me -2/5 y equals -3x minus 1. Notice that I put the x term first because I want to model y equals m times x plus b. So make that x term come first on the other side. Keep going, Macy. How do I get rid of that fraction coefficient? Multiply every stinking term by the reciprocal. So I have to multiply this by negative 5 over 2, and I have to multiply every term over here by negative 5 over 2. So this cancels out. Y equals, let's see, negative 3 times negative 5 is 15. And this is 3 over 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. So I have 15 halves x. Negative 1 times negative 5 halves becomes positive 5 halves. Whoops, where did that go? Positive 5 halves. So what is my slope? And what is my y-intercept? Lorelai. Slope is 15 over 2. And y-intercept? Okay. If you love decimals, could you turn those into decimals? 15 over 2 is 7.5. 5 over 2 is 2.5. Because a lot of you guys are using your calculator, and your calculator automatically defaults to decimals. Okay. All right. Example 11. What do you want to do? What do you think, McKinley? Yeah. Subtract 4/3 x from both sides. And when I do that, watch out for this. There's a negative attached to that y equals negative 4/3 x plus 7. Yeah, divide by negative 1. Every stinking term gets divided. Y equals a negative divided by a negative is a positive. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. So my slope and my y-intercept are, my slope is 4 over 3, and my y-intercept is negative 7. Okay. All right. So for example 12, I have to distribute first. There's no way around that. I have got to get rid of the parentheses. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 4y is negative 8y equals 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times 5 is positive 15. I'm trying to get my y term all by itself. What do I need to move away, Alexis? Yeah, I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Good job. So negative 8y equals 1x plus 15. Last step, divide every stinking term by negative 8. Y equals negative 1 over 8x minus 15 over 8. Can I reduce 15 over 8? Can that be turned into a smaller fraction? Can I reduce that fraction? No, I cannot. The factors of 8 are 2 and 4, and 15 is not divisible by either one of those. So my slope is negative 1 over 8, and my y-intercept is negative 15 over 8. How are we doing, ma'am? Yes. All right. So steps to graph slope y-intercept method. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your equation is written in a y equals form. And then you always want to begin with b. That's your y-intercept. Begin with b. That's how I remember that. And then you're going to use your slope and count from the b up or down using your slope, okay? So let's look at example number 13. Let's identify our slope and our y-intercept first from that equation. Is this already written in slope-intercept form? Yes. So what is my slope? My slope is -2/3. And what is my y-intercept? Okay, -1. So this is where I'm going to begin. I'm going to begin at -1 on the y-axis. Now I have to count my slope. We always talk about rise over run. Because the numerator is negative, am I going to rise up or am I going to go down? So I draw an arrow. That helps me. And we always run to the right. We always run to the right. So from this point, B, that I just plotted, I have to go down how many units? So down 1, 2, and then over to the right, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to put a point. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go down 1, 2, and then I'm going to go over to the right, 1, 2, 3. I really like to have 4 points, and I can't do anymore because I'm running out of graph. So what could I do? Macy. Yeah, I could go up 2 and to the left 3 because that's positive over a negative, which is still going to give me negative slope. So from B, I'm going to go up 2 and then over 1, 2, 3. And now I have the 4 points that I desire to make a nice straight line. These are linear functions, linear equations. So we are going to make sure that we connect the points with a line. We're graphing lines, and we need to make sure that we put arrows on the end of it. Notice that I go through my points. I don't just go from one point to the beginning point to the end. It's not a dot to dot. We go through the points and we put arrows. All right. Example number 14. What do I need to do first? Yeah, first I need to solve for y. Sailor, what do you want to do first? Yeah, we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. So when I do that, remember that I purposefully make sure that I have the x term come first on the right side. So I have -5y on the left equals -2x plus 10. That just sets me up for y equals mx plus b. Cheyenne, what do I need to do next? Yeah, divide every stinking term by -5. Every single term gets divided by -5. So y equals, let's see, a negative divided by a negative is a 2/5 x. 10 divided by 5 is 2, and a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So let's talk about what our slope is, and let's talk about what our b is. Remember, that's where we begin. So what is my slope? Slope is 2/5. And what is my y-intercept? -2. So I'm going to begin at -2 on the y-axis, and then I'm going to look at my slope. It's positive. That means that I'm going to go up and then run to the right. Up and to the right. So I go up 1, 2, and then I run to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't have enough space to go anymore. What should I do? What if I go down 2 and to the left? That would work. So from B, where I started, I'm going to go down 2 and to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm still not going to get my 5 points out here, or my 4 points, but I might go down 1, 2, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are going to be times where you can't get all 4 points. For me, graphing on the computer, it makes it easier when I have 4 points. Make sure you connect your points with a line and put arrows on the end of your lines. Okay, I think we have like 3 more, really 4 more examples. Are we okay? Can we keep going? All right. Number 15. First thing I have to do is solve for y. Lainey, what do you want to do first? Yeah, we're going to subtract 7x from both sides. So negative y equals negative 7x plus 8. And now what? Evan Easton. I need to get rid of that negative in front of my y. No. I want to divide. I would just want to get rid of the negative. I don't want to move anything. So I'm going to divide every single term by, divide everything by negative 1. Dividing by negative 1 does not change the value. It only changes the sign. Because I need my positive. I need that y to be positive. Y equals a negative divided by a negative is a positive 7x. A positive divided by a negative is a negative 8. So my slope is 7 over 1. I purposely write that whole number over 1 so I can do what? So I can count it. Jordis, are you with me? And my y-intercept is negative 8. Okay. So 2, 4, 6. I'm going to have to count by 2s on my y-axis. 2, 4, 6, 8. Otherwise, it's not going to fit. Do you guys see that? So that's going to make it interesting when we go up. So I'm counting by 2s. So I go up. I need to go up 7. So I'm going to go up 2, 4, 6. I just go up a half and then over 1. I'm going to count by 1s on my x, though. Then I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go up 1/2 plus 2, 4, 6 over 1. And then I'm going to do it again. Up 2, 4, 6, and then a half over 1. I'm going to do it one more time. A half and then 3 whole units over 1. Do you guys see how we had to manipulate that graph to make our slope work? No, you can just finish that tonight, okay? Thank you, ma'am. That'll get you graded tonight. I'll get it back to you tomorrow. All right, next one. Number 16. What do we need to do? Divide every stinking term by negative 3. Thank you, Macy. Divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3. So y equals negative 1/3 x minus 3. My slope is negative 1/3, and my y-intercept is negative 3. This is where I begin. I'm going to go down and to the right. So begin at negative 3, down 1 and to the right, 3. Down 1 and to the right, 3. I'm also going to go from where I began and go up 1 and to the left 3 just to get my nice 4 points in a row. Okay, well, I'll get that graded tonight and get it back to you tomorrow. Okay? Ladies, I'm making a video of this, so it'll be posted shortly. Number 17. How am I going to solve for y? What do I need to do? Subtract 3 from both sides. Y equals -3. Remember, we know that this is a horizontal line. So I'm going to go to -3 on my y-axis, which is where I begin. Then I'm just going to draw a line all the way through. There's no x in that equation because it doesn't matter what I let x equal, y is always -3. Let me say that again. There is no x in that equation. There's no x because it doesn't matter what I let x equal. It doesn't matter what x is. Y is always -3. That's how that works. It doesn't matter what x is. Y is always -3. I think we have a word problem. Lorelai, do I need to go back to that? Ma'am. Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been, I think, super gracious about restrooms. I just want to say this. At the beginning of the year, I asked you to wait until we were done with instruction. So I'd really like you to just wait. Don't ask to use the restroom unless it's an emergency during instruction, okay? Can we work on that? Perfect. All right, Lorelai, are you good? Yeah. You got it? Okay. All right. It costs $250 to start up with a weight loss program and $35 per month. So this is my startup, which is kind of like the beginning fee. And this is my per month, which is my rate or my slope. Do you guys see how that word per comes in? So what is my initial value, my B, and what is my slope, my M? Say it again, you're right. 250, and then my slope is 35. And when we write an equation, we don't want to use dollar signs. I saw a couple of you guys do that on your test. We know that we're talking about money, but we don't use dollar signs in the equation, okay? So we're going to write an equation that represents the cost, the total cost C, which is much like our Y, after M months, which is much like our X. So what's that going to look like? But instead of using Y equals, and maybe we write it in the way Y equals MX plus B, and then we replace the C and the M. What do you think? I saw your hand, McKinley. Yeah, C equals 35M plus 250. If you need to write it in Y equals MX plus B, do that, and then replace your Y with a C and your X with an M. Okay? Because for like sometimes I just have to write it in the way that I know it goes and then change out the variables. What does the slope represent? Say it again, Macy. Yeah, the cost per month. What does the C-intercept represent? The what? Yeah, it's your flat fee. It's your beginning cost. Maybe it's the membership fee, right? Like you might pay a membership fee at a country club, but you still got to pay every time you golf. You're just a member plus your golf fees, right? If it takes 36 months to lose the desired weight, how much has that person spent on this program? So I'm going to write out the equation again. C is 35M plus 250, And we're letting M equal 36. So what does that mean, Evan? Well, tell me what I need to do first. So what does that mean in terms of math? 35 times 36, right? Plus 250. So what is my total cost for that program? $1,510, you said? Yeah. Did someone else get that? Yes? Okay. So I'm going to finish it up with a sentence. The cost for 36 months is, there's where I throw my dollar sign in, $1,510. And that's it.